Okay, so I want to make this video to sort of show people, to give some accurate information out there as to how the backlash gets properly set on a E60 BMW M5 or M6. I think the M6 is a E63, but either way, if you've never used one of these before and for some reason, you're doing your rod bearings and you're needing to set the backlash on the high pressure oil pump gear, and it's your first time, I'm going to explain sort of how that works. So first of all, after you have all your new rod bearings in and you've done all the maintenance down here, you've inspected the high pressure oil pump, taken it apart, put it back together, and inspected your low pressure, which isn't in right now. Basically, what you need to do is you need to set the backlash of this gear on the high pressure Vanos pump. This gear meshes with the crankshaft gear, and it has a certain backlash that needs to be set for proper lubrication of the teeth in these gears, and so that they run properly together. There's not a ton of information online exactly from what I could find. I mean, there's tons of different examples of people doing it. There's examples of people doing it wrong. And this is really important because a lot of the times, from the vast amount of research that I've done, I have found that there have been, instances where this pump will actually go out, or the gear will break or wear down because the backlash is not properly set here. And so this is what I'm going to show you. First of all, what I have here is a with very poor visibility. What I have here is essentially a lever style dial indicator gauge, and what that is basically is it means that this little needle right there on this gauge, it actually moves back and forth. So it has play that goes back and forth like that. And as you put it somewhere and move it back and forth, you can see that it measures that play. Now this is really important. The majority of videos that you'll see, specifically there's one out there by FCP Euro that I've been following, they use a plunger style dial indicator. That means it goes like this. And I think those work okay as far as like a maybe a differential gear or something like that that's larger. But in this case, I don't really think that's the right tool. It might get you in the ballpark. But really what you want the lever style. So I picked this up on Amazon for maybe $42 to $50, somewhere in there. And it has a magnetic base. What I've done here is I've actually connected this magnetic base. A lot of people put up some piece of metal or something. Really not necessary, but it'd probably help you out a little bit in terms of working space here. So I just took a little wrench and I stuck it in the bottom here so that it wouldn't rock. And then I just stuck the magnetic base right to the counterweight on this crankshaft counterweight. So that's what I've done there. And that allows me to get my dial indicator set up here. Now the important thing to note here, so this, you tighten this, it tightens up the entire thing here. What you're shooting for as far as your clearance here for your backlash is you're looking for anywhere between 0.06 millimeters to 0.08 millimeters if you're using metric, or if you're using inches like I am, you're shooting for 0.0026 inches to 0.0031 inches. And my dial indicator runs off of 0.0005 inch resolution for the tick marks. And so basically, if we go ahead and we just kind of bring our 0 over there to where one of the sides of the dial matches up roughly. You know, probably not going to get it perfect because it moves every time. We can see if we kind of count ourselves off, that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5.5, almost 6. And so that's right inside the range there, because that's like 1, 2, 3. That's almost 0.003 inches. So it's right in the range. Now, this is really important with this style of indicator, because this is what I had to figure out on my own, doing tons and tons of research. When you go to line this up, this needle, when you actually go to position this needle, this is really important. You can't just stick it in there all willy-nilly. No, you actually, there's 2 different faces to the teeth on this gear. So there's actually a leading edge and a trailing edge. And so your leading edge is going to be that edge right above my fingernail there, because that's the one that makes first contact with the crankshaft, because it's going up that way to make contact with the crankshaft, of course. And then you have the trailing edge. That's, of course, the side of the tooth that makes last contact. You want to put your needle against the trailing edge. So you can see in there that I have my needle against the trailing edge. It's kind of looks like it's wedged between both, but it is against that trailing edge. It's not positioned 100% perfectly in there. Secondly, you want to make sure that your needle is halfway between the tip of the tooth and the root or valley of the teeth. So you want it about halfway down, aka where the crankshaft gear would actually make first contact on the other side, you know, on the driving edge. You're just setting it about midway down on this tooth. And then finally, to be perfect on this, you do want this needle to be perpendicular to the tooth that you're measuring. These teeth are slightly angled, so as you can see, looking straight up, I have slightly angled my dial indicator. And you basically just want that needle right in line there so it catches a good measurement. Finally here, final thing to note on this. So the actual procedure here is going to be, you're going to essentially, with these 3 bolts here on the high pressure oil pump, you're going to get everything put in. Don't forget your plunger up there and all the pieces. But you're gonna put it all in here. You're gonna bolt it up, and you're not even really gonna go snug on it. You're gonna basically bolt it till your ratchet or whatever feels the very first hint of resistance on these 3 10mm bolts. Bolt it to where you get the first feeling of resistance on all 3, and that'll give you enough room to kind of knock this thing side to side. The general thing here, if you can kind of see the orientation, I know this is kind of a crazy setup, but the general gist of this here, of adjustments, if I can kind of point this out properly, is that if you go that way towards, let's say, the passenger side of the car with this, and you might ask, how do you go that way? Well, see this thing right here, this pressure relief valve or whatnot? You're just going to take a mallet and knock it a little bit. If you go that way, your clearance is going to go down to 0. So that's a good starting point. If you go this way, so if I tap on this, if I tap on that with a hammer from that side, that's going to give you more clearance. And as you can see, with this in its final position, 0.00275 inches worth of backlash is very tiny, almost imperceptible. So you can kind of start with this almost completely locked up, and then start tapping on it from that side. You know, because if you go all the way over to the driver's side here, you're going to have a bunch of backlash there, and you'll have to return over to the other side. But basically, the concept here, tap it around one way or another, take your backlash measurements here while you go. And then the other part here to kind of take note of is that when you actually get your backlash measurement proper and you go to tighten these guys down, I would just take like a regular ratchet, and when you kind of lock it in, tighten it down with the ratchet first and then hit it with the torque wrench. Torque specs, by the way, are 10 Newton meters. But at any rate, when you go to tighten it down, it's actually going to lose a little bit of clearance as this gets sucked up into the crankshaft. So you're going to lose a little bit of clearance. So you may want to start out on the high end of the clearance. So that's 0.0031 inches. You might want to be right there, which if you have this same Amazon dial indicator, that is going to be like 6 tick marks worth at 0.0005 inch resolution. But at any rate, that's pretty much the gist of this job. It's not too bad, but it definitely takes a while, especially if you're not familiar with this. And definitely avoid getting the plunger style dial indicator. That's not really the appropriate tool for this job, because it only measures that in and out, which can kind of measure it if you hit it at a pretty extreme angle. But this needle style or lever style indicator, this is really the proper dial indicator gauge for a job like this. And just make sure you get one with enough resolution. But again, using this wrench trick, you do not have to actually, basically you don't have to put a piece of metal in here or anything like that. Just simply, kind of cram it in there, put it on the counterweight on the crankshaft, and you'll be set.